Hello! Welcome back to Steins Gate Zero! Woohoo! Woohoo! It's Kagari! She'd been 10 years old when she was separated from Suzuha. If that was 12 years ago, she should be 22 now. That meant she was older than me, but she was also Mayuri's adopted daughter. That would make her like Suzuha, who is Daru's daughter. Suzuha was at least the same age as me and Daru, so I didn't need to worry about being polite to my elders, but... think about how I will deal with her. Was it okay to celebrate Christmas at a shrine?
ところで、Kagari さん、調子はどうかな？
悪くはないです。でも、まだ何も。
いや、記憶に関しては無理して思い出そうとする必要はないよ。時間が来れば戻るだろう。それくらいの気でいた方がいい。
わかりました。
Of course, she probably wanted to remember them faster than that.
どうかしたか？
いえ、ルカ君もマユリちゃんも、それに岡部さんもみんな優しいなって思って。
そんな、俺は別に優しくなんてない。
照れなくてもいいのに。
She'd been so depressed when we first met that this was probably the first time I had seen her smile. Her smile was somehow childish, and she seemed a lot younger than I'd been told she was.
ごめんなさい。私ったら急に慣れ慣れしい感じになっちゃって。
いや、構わないよ。こっちだってタメ口で喋ってるんだし。
そうだよ。マユシーもね、普通に喋ってくれた方が嬉しいな。だってその方がお友達って感じがするでしょ。お友達。お友達。ありがとう、マユリちゃん。お友達か。
Maybe this was how the future Mayuri became close to her as well. A war orphan, that's what Suzuha had said about Kagari, and all of that was, it was my fault, wasn't it? If I did what Suzuha wanted, would her life change? But for that to happen, I would have to once again...
Okabeさん、大丈夫ですか？なんだか顔色が優れないみたいで。
And this is an interesting situation too.
ああ、なんでもない。ちょっと寝不足なだけだ。
そうですか。だったらいいんですけど。
それより、ルカ子は何をしていたんだ？忙しそうにしていたみたいだが。
本殿のお掃除をしていたんです。
掃除ならいつもやってるんじゃないのか？
It felt like every time I came here, Lukaku had a broom in his hands.
今日は普段できないようなところも含めての大掃除なんです。
ああ、そうか。もうすぐ正月だしな。
New Year's was a big deal for a
す
shrine.
す払いは先日やったんですが、まだやり残しているところもあるので、かがりさんにも手伝ってもらっていたんです。ただ、お世話になってるだけなのも気が引けるもん。少しくらいは役に立たないと。
Lukaku and Kagari seemed to be getting along just fine.
おや、ルカ、お客さんかな？
あ、お父さん。
Lukaku's father was poking his head out from behind the shrine. He had the look of a saint, but I knew he had some bad habits. Mostly of the same type of as Daru had. Dressing up Lukaku in shrine priestess clothes and having him help around the shrine was all his idea.
おや、これは岡部君にまゆりちゃん。メリークリスマス。
メリークリスマスです。
He does look good in that Yukata though. Wait, aren't you not allowed to say that?
どうかしたかい、岡部君？
いいえ。
Well, if it didn't bother them, I guess it was fine. More importantly, I needed to thank them for what they were doing for Kagari.
実は彼女のことなんです
が。かがりさんというそうだね。ルカから聞いたよ。まさか君たちが知っている人だったとは。世間は狭いね。
はい。それでもう少しの間、お宅でお世話になることができればありがたいんですが。
何か理由があるようだね。もちろんうちとしては 大歓迎だよ。
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます、おじさん。
いいんだよ。私も新しく娘ができたみたいで嬉しいからね。
できたみたいって、お父さん、お姉ちゃんがいるじゃないですか。
あの子はちっとも家に帰ってきてくれないじゃないか。私が寂しがっているのを知っていて、そういう意地悪をするんだ。そうだ、いいことを考えたよ。せっかくこれだけ女の子がいるんだから、お正月には神社を手伝ってもらうというのはどうだろう。
手伝うって巫女ですか？
もちろん。かがりちゃんにもまゆりちゃんにもちゃんと巫女装束を着てもらってね。どうかな？バイト代は出すよ。
でもそんなの2人に悪いですし。あら、私なら大丈夫よ、ルカ君。お世話になってるんだもん。それくらいしなきゃ。
本当かい？
マユシーはお正月はパーティーの準備をしなきゃいけないので、それにコスプレ衣装を作るのは好きだけど、自分で着るのは。
Mayuri, a shrine priestess outfit actually isn't cosplay, you know?
そうか。まゆりちゃんの巫女姿、岡部君見たいんじゃない？
Why is he asking me? Well, since you asked.
とぼけても無駄だよ。ちゃんと顔に書いてある。
No way. If I were to look at a mirror right now, I most definitely would not see it written on my face.
オカリンがそう言うなら。
そうか。それはよかった。よし、そうと決まれば巫女装束をもっと用意しなければいけないな。母さん。
He must have been afraid that Mayuri and Kagari were going to change their minds because he quickly ran behind the shrine. You seriously couldn't lay your guard down around that man.
ごめんなさい。ルカ君が謝ることないよ。でもせっかく楽しみにしてたお正月のパーティーが。それはここのお手伝いが終わった後でもできるから平気だよ。そうだね。僕も手伝うから何でも言ってね。ありがとう、ルカ君。でも巫女さんの格好なんて私に似合うかな？大丈夫、絶対に似合うよ。そうかな？マユシーはね、お友達のコスプレの衣装とかたくさん作ってるからわかるの。そう言ってもらえるなら頑張ってみるね。
Since I'd asked them to keep Kagari from leaving the shrine, she probably needed something like this to relax. Maybe that was why Lukaku's father had asked her? No way. Either way, it was going to be a busy New Year's.
それじゃあ俺はこれで。
もう帰られるんですか？僕、お茶もお出しせずに。
かがりさんの様子を見に来ただけだからな。
あ、オカリン、マユシーは。
分かってる。もう少し正月の話をするんだろう。俺はラボに戻ってるから。
ありがとう、岡部さん。
She bowed her head a little and smiled innocently. If she still had her memories as a war orphan, would she be able to smile like that? Yeah, Japan has a lot of really pretty clothes too. Come to think of it, what would Hiyasha be doing on New Year's? She had said that New Year's was a time for partying with your friends, but it doesn't seem like she had any friends to party with.
だから何度言ったらわかるのよ。
I heard a voice I thought I recognized. It was Hiyasha herself. And she was yelling at a police officer, which meant...
証明するものって、ちょっと待って、今。
ヒヤジョーさん。
岡部さん、いいところにちょっとお願いがあるんだけど。
おまわりさん、彼女はれっきとした大人の女性です。間違いありません。
君は知り合い？
はい。大学の先輩にあたります。
I didn't feel like explaining the whole thing. She wouldn't mind if I told a little lie like that, probably.
大学。
東京電機大学です。なんなら調べてもらってもいいですけど。
ああ、いや、そこまでは。でも、そう。小学生じゃないんだ。
The policeman left, shaking his head.
なんなのもう。謝るくらいしたらどうなのよ。もっと訴えてやろうかしら。
まあまあ、それだけ仕事熱心ってことじゃないかな。
あなたもあなたよ、岡部さん。
俺？
一見しただけで私が子供に間違われて補導されそうになってるって分かったんでしょ。一目で分かるなんてあなたもそう思ってるって証拠だわ。
それは
Maybe I should have kept my mouth shut.
まあでも助けてくれたことには感謝するわ。ありがとう。
いや、
You should have just said so to begin with, then. Come to think of it, Kurisu is the same way. We're all genius scientists like this.
それでヒアジョーさんはこんなところで何を？
これよ、これ。
She showed me a big bag. Well, no, it just looked big because Maho was holding it. It actually wasn't very big at all.
例のノートパソコン。ここならパスを解析できる業者がいるかなって思ったんだけど。
Evidently, she was holding Kurisu's laptop.
まだそれにこだわっていたのか。
そりゃあプライベートを覗くのは良くないって思うわ。でも私はあの子が何を考えて何をやろうとしていたのか知りたいのよ。あなたはいいわよ。あの子が亡くなる前に会って話したりしてるんだもの。
Not in this world, line, I didn't.
でも私にはまだ実感がないの。急に亡くなったって連絡を受けただけ。葬儀にも出られなかった。だから少しでもクリスのことを知りたい。今更って思うかもしれないけど、それが私の中でのあの子の死に対する折り合いのつけ方なのよ。
ヒアジョーさん。
だから岡部さん、教えて。何でもいいの。あの子がパスワードとして設定しそうな言葉、一つや二つ心当たりあるでしょ。
I knew how she felt, and I knew she wanted a way to cope. Because I still hadn't come to grips with it myself. But still,
悪いけど知らないよ。
岡部さん、
すまない。
そうやって逃げるの？
逃げる？
アマデウスとコミュニケーションを取らなくなったのも逃げてるからでしょ。
She was right. I had run away. I'd run away from a chain of tragedy that had repeated itself hundreds, no, thousands of times. And the result of that running away was who I was today.
クリスったらすっごい文句言ってたわよ。岡部さんは冷たいって。
I could imagine. Knowing her, she probably said all kinds of things about me. But
そうだ。冷たいんだよ。俺は。
I'd abandoned her.
岡部さん。
My attitude must have affected her because Maho had fallen silent. I realized too late that I'd made a mistake. I didn't need to put it like that.
すまない。
This was really awkward. I needed something to change the subject.
そうだ、ヒアジョーさん。正月は何か予定あるのか？
いいえ、今のところは何もないけど。
だったら初詣にみんなで柳林神社に行かないか？マユリたちも手伝うことになってるんだ。
マユリ？
Oh, right. Mayuri wasn't there when she'd visited the
俺
lab.
の幼馴染なんだ。ラボの一員でもある。
幼なじみ。
ああ。その後でラボでパーティーもやるらしい。なんならヒアジョーさんも巫女装束を着て神社を手伝ってもらってもいい。
巫女装束。それってコスプレとかいうやつ？
いや、ちゃんとした手伝いだからコスプレにはならないと思う。
そう。でもそれはやめとくわ。私に合うサイズもないだろうし。
She was probably right, actually. They might have had some of Lukaku's old clothes from his childhood around, but it seemed like a bad idea to mention that.
ちょっと、そこで納得しないでくれる？
すまない。
で、集合はラボでいいの？何時に行けばいい？
え、でも
手伝うのはパスだけど、日本の初詣には行ってみたいと思ってたの。 その後のパーティーはまあその時考えるわ。
That made sense. If she met Mayuri and they didn't get along, there was probably no need to go to a party with her.
分かった。じゃあ細かいことはまた連絡するよ。
ええ、楽しみにしてるわ。
The time between then and New Year's flew by, parties and drinking at school. When that was over, Kamima. Of course, all I did for that was watch Daru and Mayuri run around. And then it was January 1st, 2011.
これで全員揃ったか？
じゃあ今から点呼取るよ。あまねし。
はい。
マホタン。
だからその呼び方やめてって言ってるでしょ。
カエデシ。
はい。
ふぶきし。
はいはい。
であとは。
はい、私です。
ナエ様。なおかりん、なんでブラウン市まで行くことになってんの？
俺だって知らない。マユリがないを誘ったらついてきたってとこだろう。
おい、何ひそひそ話してやがる。
Fine.
いえ、何も。
お父さん、私ね、まゆりお姉ちゃんのみこさん姿、すごく楽しみなんだ。
そうだな、すまないな。本当ならお父さんが連れてってやりたかったんだ。
What, wear an outfit too?
テレビさんは来られないのですか？
当たり前だ。何を好き好んで俺がおめえらと初詣せねえならん。俺はちょっと休養で出かけなきゃいけなくなっちまったから、おめえらに苗を預ける。ちゃんと面倒見ないと家賃あげっからな。
When we heard that, Daru and I both let out a sigh of relief, even though he was still right there. I, in particular, was trying to avoid Tenoji as much as I possibly could. His ostensible job was running his strange bronze tube workshop, but he was actually the leader of the Rounders. He worked for CERN. My heart wasn't strong enough to deal with him knowing that. The only reason I didn't leave the building altogether was that Mayuri and Daru had opposed it. There was also the hope that if something did happen, I'd be able to learn something about the Rounders' movements. Still, I hadn't come back to the lab for a long time.
ダメだよ、お父さん。そんな言い方しちゃ。
おお、そうだったな。さすが苗はいい子だな。
おかりんおじさん、お願いします。
おう。
They didn't seem as scared of me, probably because I stopped treating her like a small, cute animal.
そんじゃ、夜になったら迎えに来るから、よろしくな。
わかりました。まだ何か？
いや、やっぱりおめえ、ずいぶんと変わっちまったよな。前は、ほうだとかなんとか妙なことばっか言ってたのによ。どうにも調子が狂っちまうぜ。
Hey man, be quiet.
大人になったんです。
It was cool.
ま、とにかく苗を頼んだぜ。
Everyone in the room except Nae let out a big sigh of relief the minute Tenoji left.
とにかくこれで全員だな。
Fubuki, Kai, Yuki, Maho, and Nae. It was a strange group. Of course, we were all going to Yanabayashi Shrine.
本当に良かったの？私なんかが来てしまって。
気にしなくていい。こっちこそなんだかよくわからない集まりになってしまったけど大丈夫かな？
馴染んだって言ったら嘘になるわね。でも初詣ってちょっと興味もあったし、それに同年代の知り合いが増えるのも嬉しいわ。
そう言ってもらえると助かるよ。
I was probably feeling a little left out, but that would solve itself with time.
マユシーのコスプレ超楽しみ。もうふぶきちゃんたらコスプレじゃなくて今日はあくまでも清掃だよ。鈴葉さんの巫女装束も楽しみですね、橋田さん。
まあね、妹属性の巫女さんつうのも悪くない。つうか、どうせならそこにナース属性も追加してくれれば萌えの数え役満なのだが。
橋田さんは相変わらず変態さんですね。
紳士だけどね。
In the end, instead of just Mayuri helping at the shrine, Suzuha and Ferris had gone too. Ferris I could understand, but I certainly hadn't expected Suzuha to go. She was probably worried about Kagari, but there was also another reason, she said. She'd heard that she'd get paid. Suzuha had enough money with her to get by in this time period, but since it wasn't her own money, she preferred not to spend it on living expenses. She'd rather make her own money instead. That was something that had always impressed me.
そうそう、大事なことを忘れてました。
大事なこと？
新年明けましておめでとうございます。ああ、そっか。昨日までコミマだったからまだ年明けたって気がしないんだよね。それじゃあ私たちも改めて明けましておめでとうございます。うん、これでよしと。
じゃあ挨拶も済ませたことだし、そろそろ行くか。
いざ行かん。ミコミコパラダイス。
橋田さん、神社にパラダイスはないと思いますよ。
あ、そっか。
We all headed to Yanabayashi Shrine, laughing and talking as we went. Oh, to be honest, Akihabara on New Year's wasn't that much different than any other time of year. The stores were open, and there were lots of customers seeking New Year's bargains. The only difference was that there were fewer cars.
ねえねえ、タルおじさん。
はい、なんでしょう、ナエ様。
おじさんは紳士なの？
そうだよ。おじさんは変態だけど紳士なのだぜ。キリ。
橋田さんはどうしてナエちゃんのことを様付けで呼ぶんですか？
幼女はその存在だけで敬われるべきだからです。キリ。
They looked like a family walking together. Were Suzuha, Itaru, and Yuki ever able to spend any time together like that?
そういえば、ふぶきちゃん、この前言っていた変な夢はどう？あれ？最近はあんまり見なくなったかも。やっぱ疲れてたみたい。そっか。だったらいいんだけど。
変な夢？
ちょっと一時期悪夢にうなされちゃった時期があって。
悪夢って？
お？食いつきますね。ひょっとして私に気があるとか。ダメよ、ふぶきちゃん。オカリンさんには好きな人がいるんだから。そっか。
何の話だ？
オカリンさんには好きな人がいるって話。
俺に？
Who told them that? Mayuri, maybe?
俺には好きな人なんていないよ。
そうなんですか？本当に？
本当だって。
Mayuri talked about them a lot, but thinking back, this was probably the first real conversation I had with them. Still, they were easy to talk to?
そんなことより二人とも頼みがあるんだが、できればヒヤジョーさんに話しかけてやってもらえないか。彼女アメリカの大学から来てるんだけど、まだあんまりこっちに知り合いいないから。
アメリカ？すごい！
Instead of answering, Nakase gave a cry of surprise and went over to Maho, who'd been walking ahead of the group.
ねえ、マホさんってアメリカの大学に通ってるんですか？まあそうだけど。じゃあ英語ペラペラなんですか？まあ生まれも生活もずっと向こうだから。すごい！
That should probably help her open up a little.
オカリンさんって優しいんですね。
そんなことないよ。
Mala told me the exact opposite just a few days ago.
でも人って優しいからこそ誰かを傷つけることもあるんですよね。
は？
いえ、
Oh.
何でもありません。
What? No.
私もマホさんと話してきますね。
Kurushima jogged to catch up with the other girls, leaving behind a faint smell of perfume. Hurt someone. The words stuck in my chest like needles for a little while. Yanabayashi wasn't as busy as Kanda's shrine, but it was still a lot busier than I'd expected.
オカリンたちだにゃ。おーい、オカリン、こっちだにゃ。明けましておめでとうございます。皆さん。
At this point, it didn't even need to be said that Lukaku looked great in a Shrine Priestess's uniform. Ferris, for her part, still had her cat ears on, but her outfit was much simpler than the usual maid uniform. No, her maid was much simpler than the usual outfit. No, no. Dara and the others exchanged New Year's greetings as well.
フェリスタがミッコミコにしてくれるなんて生きててよかった。
ありがとうにゃ。ゆきさんも来てくれたんだ。明けましておめでとう、鈴葉さん。明けましておめでとうございます。
Suzuha always wore casual, light clothes, but this was pretty good too. If nothing else, it made it impossible to imagine her as Daru's daughter. If only she'd smile, this would be perfect.
妹属性の巫女さん来たこれ。それでお注射の時間だよお兄ちゃんって言っておくれよ。
もうそんなことばっかり言ってるから母さんに誤解されるんだ。
誤解？
なゆ姉さんから聞いたんだよ。母さん、自分が父さんからあまり好かれてないと思い込んでる。
なんでそうなる？僕は鈴葉はもちろんアマネ氏もフェリスタもルカ氏も平等で好きなのに。
One of
そう
them?
いうのがダメなんだって。
One of them is a guy.
でもさっきから何を？なんでもない。それよりほら、おみきとあとおみくじもあるからどうかな。
I like Suzuha's old hair too. Suzuha was right. If Dara didn't come back little, she might never be born. I'd have to talk to him about it later.
それにしてもルカ君は相変わらず美人さんね。いえ、そんな。ほんとこれで男の子だなんて信じらんないよね。嘘、あなた男の子なの？あ、はい。嘘でしょ。日本ってやっぱり進んでるのね。猫のお姉ちゃん。何かにゃ？まゆりお姉ちゃんはどこですか？まゆし？確かさっきまであっちでおみきを。あそこにいたにゃ。まゆし、こっちに来るにゃ。オカリンたちが来てるにゃ。
Mayuri must have not realized we were here because she came running over with Kagari in tow. Oh.
明けましておめでとうございます。明けましておめでとうございます。岡部さん。
ああ、おめでとう。
That's her hair.
どうかな。この格好似合ってるかな。
ああ、想像以上によく似合ってる。
本当？よかった。
Her facial expression went from tense to relief.
メイクインニャンニャンでもイベントでなんかじゃコスプレするんだろ？今更緊張することもないだろう。
あれはお仕事だからいいのです。
I didn't understand how it could be okay to do it at work and not okay to do it when you weren't at work. And she was getting paid for this, so it wasn't this work too.
ねえ、岡部さん、私はどうかな？似合ってるかな？
ああ、かがりさんもすごく似合ってると思う。
わーい、やった。そうだ、後で一緒に写真撮ってくださいね。
写真？いいけど。
だってほら、写真があれば記録に残るでしょ。私、今のうちにたくさん残しておきたいんです。また忘れちゃったりしないように。
She was just happy because it was New Year's. Over the past few days, she'd gotten a lot more tearful. At the time, she'd seemed scared because of her lost memories, but this was probably just who she was. As she'd gotten ready for New Year's with Mayuri and Lukaku, she'd started to become her real self again, little by little.
やっぱりまゆりちゃん、似合ってる。そうかな。なんだか恥ずかしいよ。そんなこと言ってまんざらでもないくせに。あ、こちらがこの前言ってたかがりです。椎名かがり。本当だ、まゆしーと同じ名前なんですね。偶然。
It wasn't actually a coincidence, though.
かがりさんもスタイルいいし、 コスとか似合いそう。あ、私も思った。コスコスプレねえ、好きなキャラとかいるんですか？私そういうのはちょっとよくわからなくて。ふぶきちゃん。あー、そっか、ごめんなさい。あ、気にしないで、大丈夫だから。ねえ、オカリンもこっちに来て。マユシーがお祓いをしてあげるのです。この
She will purify you.
なんだっけ、大ヌサだよ。マユリちゃん、そうそう、大ヌサ。
そのためにはまず神様に手を合わせてこないとな。
あ、そうだね。それじゃあその後で私もお祓いしてあげる。
ああ、よろしく頼むよ。
Well, he's probably happy. I washed my hands in the water and prepared the shrine. Come to think of it, this might have been the first time I'd done this here.
何をお願いしたの？
ああ、世界が平和でありますようにってね。
またそうやってはぐらかすんだから。
It was true though. Of course, I knew it wasn't going to come true, and that wishing wouldn't make it better.
そういえば遅いわね。教授たち、初詣に行くって言ったらすごく来たがってたから場所を教えておいたんだけど。
どこかで迷ってるのかな。
レイエス教授も一緒だからどこか寄り道してるのかもね。
Once they got here, it was probably going to get even busier.
ねえ、あの子でしょ？
何がだ？
岡部さんの彼女。あのマユリさんって人なんでしょ？
マユリはそんなんじゃない。
そう、じゃあどの子？
誰も違うよ。俺には彼女なんていない。
本当に？これだけ可愛い女の子がたくさんいるのに？岡部さんってもしかして？ああ、でも大丈夫よ。私そういうのに偏見ないから。
I finally figured out what she was trying to say.
あのな、違うよ。そういうのでもない。
そうなんだ。じゃあどうして？彼女を作らないの？
君、この前クリスに散々文句言ってたのに同じこと聞いてるぞ。
ああ、言われてみれば自分のことだと嫌なのに人のことになると興味が出ちゃうのよね、人間って。これは反省が必要だわ。オカリー、大仁田でシャンシャンってやってあげるから、早く。
ちょっと行ってくるよ。
ええ、やっぱりクリスのことがあったからかしら。
I could hear a small whisper, but I pretended that I didn't. What was supposed to be a short visit to the shrine ended up taking the whole day as we talked and took pictures.
お待たせだにゃ。ああいう衣装もなかなか肩が凝るね。
Kagari. I'll say later. When we saw Frederick's and Susan usual clothes, it finally felt like things were back to normal.
マユシーたちは？
Kagari is a girl from the future
もう少し待っててほしいって言ってたにゃ。
that went back to the past. Mayuri, Kagari, and Luko hadn't come out yet, and then grew 12 years older.
もしかしてマユシたちとルカシ一緒に着替えてるんかな。
いや、
Kagari is literally too good to be true. She would not exist in real life.
ルカ君、背中のファスナーあげて。そんな、僕そんなこと。ルカ君、こっちもお願い。そんな会話があの中で繰り広げられてるんかな。はあはあ。
ねえ、岡部さん、この人大丈夫なの？
Maho had only met Dara a few times, and already she was starting to be wary
ダ
of
ルは
him.
言動はああだが害はない男だから心配しなくても平気だ。
それにスーパーハッカーなんだにゃ。
それを言うならハッカーだろ、ジョコ。
ハッカー？それ本当なの？
大きな声では言えんけど、まあそんな感じのこともやってるから、何かあったら頼んでくれてもいいのだぜ。
そっか。だったら。
Oh no!
Maho's head jerked up in surprise at the sudden voice. I followed where she was looking and saw.
Where? Japanese German girl はどこにいるんだい、リンタロウ。
Dr. Eskin and Dr. Grace looked absolutely
マ
miserable.
ホからここに来ればジャパニーズシャーマンガールに会えると聞いてきたのにいないじゃない。
ジャパニーズシャーマンガール？
巫女さんのことよ。
Oh, I see.
今日はもう巫女さんの出番は終了です。
Holy cow! So I said we should come soon.
But you just enjoyed shopping too.
They were both holding bags from electronic stores. They must have done a lot of shopping on the way here.
That's enough! どっちもどっちですよ。
The two of them started to look around the shrine, not even bothering to hide their disappointment.
お待たせ、おかり。
ずいぶん遅かったな、マユリ。
ルカ君のお母さんにね、おせちいっぱいもらっちゃった。みんなで食べなさいって。母があれも持っていけ、これも持っていけって詰め直してたらこんな時間になってしまいました。すみません。
いや、こっちこそ気を使ってもらって悪いな。
Excuse me? ちょっといいですか？
あ、はい。
お参りというのはどうやるんですか？
First of all, we should purify our hands and mouth there.
I see.
Please come with me. I'll show you how to do.
We're gonna let the two professors off the front. That voice, though. I wonder if there was some kind of religious problem inherent in all this, but if they were fine with it, it wasn't my place to say anything. What was more important?
ルカ子、すごいな。まさかあんなに英語喋れるとは。
ルカ君、頭いいからね。
Was he?
それに、秋葉原は観光の人が多いから、何か聞かれてもいいように勉強してるんだって。
I just discovered a surprising side to Itaru.
そういえばマユリ、カガリはどうした？
あれ、そろそろ出てくると。あ、来た来た。ほら。ごめんね、お待たせしちゃって。
That was everybody then. Now we just had to wait for Itaru to finish.
Thank a lot. We had a wonderful experience.
Not at all.
それじゃあラボに向かうか。
あ、そのことなんですけど、実は私、この後休養が入っちゃって。ゆきさん、来れないの？ごめんね、まゆりちゃん。バイトで欠員出て、どうしても入ってくれって。そっか。それじゃあ仕方ないのです。
I saw that both Daru and Suzuha seemed disappointed too.
教授たちはこの後どうするんです？
私はこの後用があるから。
私もよ。
今日はありがとう。素晴らしい発見だらけだったよ。シャーマンガールには会えなかったがね。
ほんとね。とってもエクサイティングだったわ。
それじゃリンタロウ、たまにはクリスにも会ってやってくれ。
では皆さん、また。See you soon.
They smiled and disappeared into the bustling Akihabara streets.
じゃあ僕たちも行こうか。
そうだな。
Even without Yuki, there were still twice as many people as usual heading for the lab.
それでは改めまして、明けましておめでとうございます。明けましておめでとう。
Akimasha, we will get Simon.
ルカ君っておへぎ、おいしいね。ほんと？僕とかがりさんも手伝ったんだけど、そう言ってもらえてよかった。えへん。なんて、私は盛り付けただけなんだけど、私この甘い卵焼き大好き。くる
Hey.
くるってなってるの。
こっちのお雑煮も絶品すぎる。鈴葉、どうだお？
美味しいね。実はメイクインニャンニャンのお正月メニューなんだにゃ。
もちもちで柔らかい。フェイリスタンの味がするお。
橋田さん、本当に変態さんですね。
Fubuki was barely putting any effort into her comments to Daru anymore. A whole day of his perversion must have tired her out.
アメリカだったらセクハラですぐ訴えられるわよ。そういえばアメリカのお正月って何を食べるんでしょう。
そう七面鳥じゃないのか。
それはクリスマスじゃないですか。アメリカじゃ大晦日に騒ぐから年が明けると意外と質素よ。豆料理とか。
豆料理って響きにときめくお年頃。
橋田さん、本当に変態さんですね。ほら、ないにゃん、この栗きんとんおいしいにゃん。こっちの黒豆も栄養価が高そうでいいね。そんなにたくさん食べられないよ。慌てないでいいから、よく噛んで食べるんだよ。かがりさん、お母さんみたいですね。やっぱり人が大勢いると楽しいね。おかり。
ああそうだな。
Oh, then Mayuri-chan. How long had it been since we'd all had this much fun at the no, that was an Alpha World line, which means that this may have been the first time in the Beta World line that we've done something like this. The party hadn't started that long ago, but evidently we were already out of tea.
兄さんが甘いジュースばかり買ってくるから。
お茶がなければコーラを飲めばいいじゃない。
おせちに炭酸は厳しいですよね。
じゃあ俺と誰で買ってこよう。
I couldn't let the girls go.
あ、ここは私とふぶきちゃんで行きますよ。私もお呼ばれしてるんだもの。それくらいしないと。しょうがない。それじゃあ行ってきます。適当でいいですよね。
そうか、すまない。助かるよ。
There was a very brief silence after Kite and Fubuki left, but then someone's phone rang.
ごめんなさい、私だわ。
She took out her phone and checked the screen, then looked at me.
ねえ、岡部さん。今、アマデウスにアクセスしてもいいかしら。
え？
着信。あの子からなの。それに、あの子がこの状況の中に入ったらどんな反応を示すか。それもいいサンプルになりそうだし。ダメかしら。
それは。
ねえ、マホさん、マホさん。アマデウスって何かな？
The next thing I knew, the call from Kurisu had stopped, and instead everyone was listening to us.
特定の人間の記憶データを内包したアーティフィシャルインテリジェンスよ。アーティフィシャル？ AI のことだにゃ。AI とはエンシェントインテリジェンス。つまり古代に失われた大いなる知恵のことなんだにゃ。
AI is pretty cool technology.
インテリジェンスだってば。
自分で考えて学習するように作られたプログラムのことだお。でも、特定の人の記憶がある AI ってことは、それって誰かのコピーってことじゃね？
果たしてそれがコピーとなり得るのか。それを現在進行形で検証しているところよ。
それがアマデウスってわけ？驚いた。そんなもん作ってるなんて。
ルカ君わかる？僕にもさっぱり。見てもらえば早いんだけど。
She glanced over at me.
俺の映らないところでな
わかった。
She sighed and reached toward the icon on the smartphone with her finger.
え？スマホで起動できるん？
本体は大学のサーバーにあるんだけどね。簡易的にアクセスできるようにしたの。
Daru was staring down at the screen with stars in his eyes. And as soon as I heard a voice from her phone.
まあ、先輩ったらどうして
How
出
are
てく
we
るの？
going to react to it, huh?
おお、すげえ。
先輩じゃない？誰ですか？
僕、橋田Itaru。なんなら僕を先輩って呼んでくれてもいいのだぜ。できれば赤く頬を染めながら上目遣いでよろう。
どうして私が見ず知らずのあなたを先輩なんて呼ばなければならないんです？
Well, that's Daru. How about
驚
Mayuri?
かせて悪かったわね。
先輩、今の人は？
橋田さんといって岡部さんのお友達よ。 今日はお正月でしょ。
Looks like Daru's
それで
okay with
岡
it.
部さんのラボラトリーでお友達とパーティーをしているの。
ああ、あの冷たい岡部さんですか。先輩もあの人との付き合いはほどほどにしておいた方がいいですよ。じゃないといつか捨てられちゃいますから。
まあまあ。
There was ice in her words. She must have been really mad. Well, I guess I could understand why.
というわけで紹介するわ。彼女が私の後輩、マキセ・クリスの記憶と人格を持つ AI アマデウスよ。え、マキセ・クリスって。
もしかしてあの
The Hashida family's voices rose in unison. That's right, those two knew about Kurisu, and they knew what happened to her.
マキセ・クリスさんって確か半年前くらいにラジカンで。あ、マキセ・クリスさん、この人が。
もしかして皆さんオリジナルの私のことをご存知なんですね。
あ、いや、まあ
心配しなくても大丈夫ですよ。私オリジナルの自分に何が起きたか知ってますし。
そうなん
That was easier said than done.
これってゲーム？
They seemed to be the only one who didn't get what was going on. But for now, I was glad of that. Her words broke the tension that was building up in the room.
ゲームじゃないわ。私は AI。あなたと同じように自分で考えてお話ししているの。
っていうか、本当の AI なのにゃ。すごすぎるにゃ。
すごいのは私を作ってくれたマホ先輩です。
Everyone was staring in awe at Kurisu as she answered their questions. Mayuri's probably going to be okay with it. I started to regret this. I shouldn't have let Kurisu talk here. Okabe was kind of okay with it, so Mayuri should be too. I should have made them all remember Kurisu. I needed to end this conversation as soon as possible.
ヒアジョーさん、
あら、
The second I spoke, Maho emitted a small cry of surprise.
どうしたん？
アマデウスがいきなり消えてしまったの。
アプリが落ちたんじゃね？まあそういうことだってあるっしょ。
そうなんだけど、再起動してもサーバーに繋がらないのよ。
サーバーのデータ更新とかは？
そんな話聞いてないわ。ここのネット回線は落ちてないみたいやけど。
Ferris had tried and succeeded to connect her own smartphone to the web.
おかしいわね。今までこんなことなかったのに。ねえ岡部さん、あなたの方でも試してみてもらえない？
いや、俺は。
I don't think Kurisu likes me, but before I could end my sentence, I heard a crash.
ごめんなさい。
Kagari had evidently dropped the glass. Little fragments were spread out all over the floor.
お姉ちゃん、大丈夫？顔色悪いよ。ええ、ありがとう。ちょっと疲れたのかも。あ、でも平気。ごめんね、すぐに片付けるから。あ、かがりさんはじっとしてて。僕が片付けますか。
It was in an instant that Luca stood up to get the broom that I heard the sounds.
動くな。
Aw, not again. Not again. Armed men stormed into the room out of nowhere. Nobody knew what was going on. They were all wearing strange masks. They were all holding guns. Some of them had assault rifles.
なんなのこれ？何のサプライズ？
Ah, the sight had brought that nightmare back to me. Mayuri's brutal murder, which I've seen again and again and again and again. I thought I was okay now. I thought everything was over. Was this because of the world line change 2 weeks ago? Mayuri.
騒ぐな。
Mayuri's going to die again.
騒ぐなと言っているだろう。
Ow! I don't want this to happen anymore. I'm hitting a black hole in the floor. It's okay, that was just a warning shot. But it was enough to snap everyone out of their terror.
それ本物かよ。
岡部さん、僕。
No, don't do anything to take them off. They were serious. They'd kill anyone they didn't need without mercy. Suzuha. What was Suzuha doing? It was no good. Nae was clinging to her legs and keeping her from moving. No, maybe there were just too many of them for her to do anything about. I had to do something, but my legs were shaking too much for me to manage anything helpful.
とにかくみんな落ち着いてくれ。
そんなこと言われても。
いいから落ち着いて奴らの言うことを聞くんだ。
I had gone through this more times than I could count, but it was still all I could do to speak. But evidently my desperation had gotten through to them, because they stopped panicking, clumped together, and simply waited for the intruder's next move. I heard the sound of heels from behind the armed men. A woman's footsteps coming up the stairs. Was it here? Was it her? Okay, Kiryu, is it you? Are you going to kill Mayuri again? But what appeared from beyond the door was... a woman in black. She wore a skin-tight motorcycle suit and a black helmet. The black visor was pulled down and I couldn't see her face. It had to be her, though. But if it was, what did they want? Last time it was me, Itaru, and Kurisu. But Kurisu was gone. Did that mean they were after Maho? The woman silently looked around the room and then walked over to us and reached out her hands. She grabbed Kagari's arm and yanked her forward. They were after Kagari, but why her? No, there was only one reason they'd want her. Did they know then? That Kagari was from the year 2036? Kagari struggled, but that woman was stronger than she'd imagined, and she was easily pulled away. Mayuri and Kagari reached out their hands, but they both grabbed nothing but air. What do I do? What should I do? If I moved Mayuri, everyone would. Then did I have to just watch as she was taken away? There was suddenly a scream from near the door. By the time I looked over, the second man was already fallen to the floor. Before he could turn his gun around, Tanoji had grabbed his hand and twisted it upwards. I heard the dull sound of snapping bone. The men seemed unsure of how to handle this sudden intruder. One of the men decided to run toward us. He reached for what looked like the weakest member of our group. Normally, this would have been the right choice, but this time, it was the worst choice he could have made. With speed that you would never imagine from someone so huge, Tanoji closed the gap between himself and that man in an instant, slamming him into the wall. When they saw him bounce off and hit the floor, the others became deathly pale. And then Suzuha, whose legs were now free of Nae's grasp, moved as well. Thin, muscular leg, the exact opposite of what you'd expect to see from Daru's daughter, flashed upward, straight for the motorcycle suit woman's neck. The woman blocked the kick with her arm at the last moment. But when she moved her hand to block, she let go of Kagari. I reached out my hand and quickly pulled her close. Realizing the tide had turned, the woman leaped out of the lab in an instant, clutching her injured arm. The other attackers followed suit, carrying their injured fellows. In a moment, the chaos was replaced with silence. Yeah, that's right. Get out of here. Mayuri's quavering voice brought me back to reality.
Mayuri, 無事か? 他のみんなも大丈夫だったか? 怪我はないか?
Itaru, Suzuha, Ferris, Wakako, Nae, Maho, Kagari. Their faces were drained of color, but none of them seemed hurt.
大丈夫、もう大丈夫だ。苗のことはちゃんとお父さんが守ってやるからな。
When they saw the Tenoji family clinging to each other, everyone finally sighed with relief. But still...
おい岡部、説明してもらおうか。あの連中は何だ。
いや、それは俺にも。
I didn't. At first, I thought they were with CERN. But if they were, there was no reason for Tenoji to be here. Yuugo Tenoji was actually FB, the leader of the Akihabara Rounders. Of course, it was possible that someone working for FB, Malika, for example, had acted without his knowledge. Everyone tensed as the door opened again.
ただいまー。飲み物いっぱい買ってきたよ。遅くなってしまってごめんなさい。吹雪ちゃんがあれもこれもって。あれ、どうしたのみんな。そんな怖い顔して。送っていただいてありがとうございました。
いや。
Of course, after that, the New Year's party was cancelled. I knew Mayuri had really been looking forward to it, but none of us were up for partying after that. I told everyone I'd give them an explanation another day. For now, I decided to send them home for safety's sake. Everyone but the Tenojis walked with me to the station. Those who were taking the train home split up with us there, and the rest came with me to Yanabayashi Shrine. Daru, Suzuha, Wakako, and Kagari were the only ones left.
つけられてなかったか。
大丈夫。ずっと注意してたけど、おかしな気配はなかった。
そうか。
I hadn't seen anyone suspicious at Akihabara Station either. What is it? Oh. Okay. Hey, wait. If they were CERN rounders, I would have expected to see them everywhere. I told the ones who taken the train to go straight home and contact me when they got there. Several of them already had. They made it home just fine. Nice. Yay. Great. Oh, alright, great. I told Mayuri in particular to send me stickers on Ryan at regular intervals. Oh, she'd been doing that, so she was probably okay. But that didn't mean I was out of the woods yet.
やっぱり私が狙われたのかな。
おそらくな。
連中、かがりたんのこと知ってるんかな。
だろうな。
I didn't know if they were with CERN yet, but it was safe to assume that they knew Kagari was from the future, and that's why they'd attacked her.
ごめんね。私のせいでみんなまで危険な目に遭わせてしまって。
君だけのせいじゃない。
She was brought here from the future at a young age, and then she went missing. She was another victim of fate, like me.
でも、本当にいいんですか？警察に届けなくても。
すまないが、今はまだ。
Maho and the others had asked me the same thing, but I managed to get them to hold off. Part of the problem was that I didn't think they'd believe us, but the biggest issue was Kagari. If we told them they were after Kagari, we'd have to explain who she was. We couldn't tell them the truth, and even if we did, they wouldn't believe us.
で、これからどうする？
とにかく、連中が何者かわからなければどうしようもない。
じゃあ、私たちだけで突き止めるってこと？どうやって？
それは。
To be honest, I had no clue. The world was full of groups who would want a functioning time machine if they knew it existed. Russia, America, China, and even Japan. If I couldn't find out who they were, the same thing was likely to happen again.
方法は明日改めて考えよう。それよりもルカ子、頼みがあるんだが。
はい、なんでしょう。
すまないが、今日から鈴葉も一緒にお前のところに泊めてもらってもいいか？
え？私がルカ兄さんの家に？
ああ。かがりを他で預かってもらうのも考えたんだが、ここの方が人数も多いし、 防犯設備も整っている。
They had security systems to keep people from vandalizing the place and robbing the donation boxes. Just taking a quick look around, I could see that there were cameras. And this was Kagari's idea to begin with.
かがりもここの方がいいんだろ。
I could understand that. She was already in an unstable state after losing her memories, even before what happened today.
鈴葉がいてくれればみんな少しは安心できる。もちろんルカ子の家族の承認が必要だが。
お父さんはきっと大歓迎だと思います。
That was certainly true.
私も別に構わない。
僕も泊まってもいいのだぜ。
兄さんは帰りなさい。
しょぶー。
Watching them talk made me think that things were slowly returning to normal. Lukako and Kagari's expression softened a little. Dara's usual antics had come in handy for once.
じゃあ頼んだぞ。何かあったらすぐに連絡してくれ。
わかりました。
Dara and I left Kagari to the two of them and headed back to the lab.
なあ、あれ本当に起きたことなんだよな。
ああ。
ドッキリとかじゃなくて現実なんだよな。
Real. Yeah, that was real. I experienced it so many times before. Screams and the smell of gunpowder.
どうしたんオカリン。
すまない。安心したせいか気分が。
I'd been so focused on seeing everyone home safely that I hadn't had time to think about it. But with that done, the memories came flooding back. The memories of last July.
大丈夫。今は僕も一緒だからさ。なんならちょっと休む？
I could feel Dara's huge hand rubbing my back. Strangely, it made me feel a little better.
ありがとう。もう大丈夫だ。
無理すんなよ。
I started to walk toward the lab again, and Dara followed me, worried.
なあオカリン。やっぱさ、これもタイムマシン関係のことだよな。
ああ。
これもシュタインズゲートの選択とかいうやつ？
The choice of Steins Gate.
今思えば痛々しい響きだな。
オカリン。
Was it going to keep following me forever, no matter how much I tried to look away or run? I just wanted to live in peace. Was even that too much to ask now?
オカリン、肩貸してやるよ。
え？
まだふらついてるじゃん。おり。
大丈夫だよ。
いいから遠慮すんなって。
ダル。
ん？
お前キモいぞ。
最近のまともになったオカリンの方がキモいっつーの。
ありがとな。
気にすんな。
Hey. Oh, we gotta deal with all this again. Luka Yoshidara was sad. He'd been sad for a long, long time. It had been a long time since he'd met Itaru Kabe, became friends, and began to visit the future gadget lab. Itaru Shida, his classmate Mayuri Shina, and the other lab members all treated him as a friend. That by itself made him happy. He was just an ordinary shy boy, and they accepted him anyway. He was very grateful for that. But still, he'd always felt like he was being left out. He knew they were hiding something from him. That made him sad. But what made him sadder was that he couldn't bring himself to ask them about it.
寝ないの？
あまねさんこそまだ起きてたんですね。
いろいろ考えることがあってね。
そうですか。
Even Luca could tell that a lot meant she was thinking about what happened today. The New Year's party. The mysterious men who burst into the lab. They were holding guns. Not plastic model guns. Real guns. From Luca's perspective, it was a mystery how they'd even gotten them into Japan. But they were real anyway. They'd had real guns in their hands, and they pointed them at him and the others. It hadn't seemed real then, but now the very thought made him shiver. If any of them had squeezed their index fingers just a little, he, Luca, wouldn't be here right now. Kagari Shina moaned softly in her sleep. She must have been really tired after everything that had happened today. She had gone to sleep almost immediately after she'd laid down. and her short breaths had soon changed into moans.
めっちゃ嫌だよ。
Was she dreaming of her mother?
マユリ、ママ。
Even that didn't surprise Luca much. She'd started calling out that name in her sleep several days ago. Kagari Shina, Mayuri Shina. At first, he thought it was just a coincidence they had the same last name. But he almost spoke, then stopped. There was so much he wanted to ask, but couldn't. He wanted courage. Just a little. The courage to ask them to tell him. He reached under his pillow and felt something hard. It was a cheap toy sword, the kind you could buy at any store. But still, it was his treasure. He held the hilt tight.
聞いてもいいですか？何？
Suzuha sat up and looked straight at him. He was only barely able to stop himself from looking away. If he did, he wouldn't be able to ask anything. He touched the toy sword once more and slowly opened his mouth to speak.
あまねさんはどうして岡部さんのことオカリンおじさんって呼ぶんですか？どうしてまゆりちゃんのことまゆ姉さんって呼ぶんですか？どうしてフェイリスさんのことルミ姉さんって呼ぶんですか？僕のことルカ兄さんって呼ぶんですか？まゆりママってまゆりちゃんのことですよね。どうしてかがりさんがまゆりママなんて言うんですか？私の言えた義理じゃないってことは分かってる。でも知らない方がいいと思う。そうやって僕はまた蚊帳の外なんですか？僕だって知りたいです。僕だって皆さんと同じ悩みを共有したいんです。ルカ兄さん、教えてもらえませんか？
She looked him straight in the eye for a moment, silently. Luca simply waited.
オカリンおじさんがさ、ルカ兄さんに事情を言わない理由、私なんとなくわかる気がするんだ。理由ですか？ルカ兄さんには純粋にこの世界の人でいてほしいんだよ。ルカ兄さんだけは今という時間の存在でいてほしいんだ。それがオカリンおじさんの救いなんだ。僕が救い？ああ、そんな。
Now that she told him that, he couldn't ask any more questions. Did Ritaro Kabi really think that? He didn't even know. In the end, he would never know anything, and that only made him sadder. The next day after the attack, I'd arrived just a little before I was supposed to, but the person I was meeting was already there.
お待たせしましたにゃ。
ありがとう。
近くの席にはしばらく誰も座らせないようにするから、思う存分話すといいにゃ。
助かる。
I sipped some fresh coffee as I observed the person in front of me. Malika Kiryu. She was as expressionless as ever, and there was no way to tell what she was thinking.
話って。
腕の調子はどうだ？
腕？
ああ。もう大丈夫なのか？
The girl in the motorcycle suit yesterday. She'd blocked Suzuha's kick with her arm. Suzuha told me later that her kick had landed pretty hard, and whoever it hit had probably gotten hurt. If that was Malika.
何を言ってるかわからない。
そうか。
But I still didn't know if Malika was innocent.
腕を見せてもらってもいいか？
腕？
ああ。左の腕の袖をまくってもらいたい。
どうして？
ダメか？
Malika sighed as if she were annoyed. She didn't seem upset or worried at all. Trouble. Oh no. worried. Why was she so calm? Malika rolled up her sleeve like I asked her to. Her skin was a deathly pale white. There was nothing else. There were no bruises and no traces of her trying to hide something with foundation. Of course, there were also no bandages.
ありがとう。しまってくれ。
Malika tilted her head just a little and rolled her sleeve back down. The girl in the motorcycle suit wasn't Malika. This wasn't a big surprise. I'd already assumed that she wasn't. Come to think of it, Malika knew that Kagari Shina was with us a long time ago. There was no need to attack when so many people were around. Malika had nothing to do with this, knowing that for sure it was progress. But that left me with a new problem. Who was the woman in the motorcycle suit then? In order to allay Malika's suspicions, I asked her for a report on her research and told her to keep it up. Then I said goodbye and headed to my next destination. This was my next destination. It took real dedication to open a store like this on the 2nd of January. I took a deep breath, steeled myself, and went inside.
失礼します。
やっと来やがったか。
Okay. Bye!